レッドコーナーよりティト・オーティス選手の入場です。
One of the most promising fighters in the UFC today, Tito Ortiz, has his opportunity tonight to win the middleweight championship. The 25-year-old from Huntington Beach, California, has improved his submissions. He has improved his stand-up. He has even improved his set of ground skills that has always been his foundation. Tito Ortiz is one of the bright stars of the UFC, but so is his opponent tonight, Wanderlei Silva.
Sure is, and don't let two losses there. One was to Frank Shamrock for the middleweight championship. Tito's star is still rising, he's still learning, he's still improving, and he still wants to fight in the octagon.
He has said about his opponent that he knows that he's very, very tough. One of the most skilled middleweights out there right now. His game is standing, Tito's game is on the ground. It's been well documented what we think we might see tonight from Ortiz and from Wanderlei Silva. Jeff, you've talked about it. McCarthy's talked about it. Peretti's talked about it. Here's the tale of the tape. 25-year-old against 22-year-old. They're both coming in at 198. Tito Ortiz is a long 6'2", so the advantage of the reach of Tito Ortiz is something to look for tonight.
In the standing position, look for Tito to take advantage of that reach and possibly use some punches.
The introduction of the fighters to our audience here in Japan. Wanderlei Silva, excellent stand-up guy, dangerous, especially with those knees.
Knees and elbows, that Muay Thai background, and of course he's trained in Jiu-Jitsu and has a good guard. Be a challenge for Tito Ortiz to use ground and pound tactics against Wanderlei Silva.
A little foreshadowing there with the use of the knees, just as he focuses himself mentally for this opportunity to win the middleweight championship. Tito Ortiz. I'll tell you what, he gave Frank Shamrock a lot when he fought for the middleweight title a number of months ago. Very good wrestler, has improved his submissions, and has really worked with anyone who will work with him to be a better fighter.
Well, he had 3 great submissions at what's known as the Abu Dhabi tournament over in the Arab Emirates, and he opened a lot of people's eyes of how could you learn submissions so quick, and that speaks volumes for the talent and the potential of Tito.
Here we go. Big John McCarthy will be our referee. One man will walk out of here tonight is our new middleweight champion. Here we go. My favorite 4 words. Let's get it on.
I'm really interested to see who's going to be the aggressor here. And there's several scenarios. Tito can come right at him and try to take him down, and I think that's what Wanderlei Silva's waiting for. I would like to think that Tito may try to set him up, bring Wanderlei to him. So much in boxing is who chases who, and how do you create that? Same with wrestling. Some people like to continually move forward. I did, because then I feel where my opponent is. But others like to counter. And this is going to be the cat and mouse game. Well, there Tito looked for the legs. Really wasn't a shot in which he really wanted. It sort of came in front of him and he thought about it, but he wasn't really confident in it. He didn't think he was going to be shooting right then.
5 5-minute rounds as Silva is taken down by Tito Ortiz. Now, Tito took a page out of your book, Jeff, in his fight against Frank Shamrock, because he spent a lot of time trying to work Frank Shamrock on the mat.
Which could have been his downfall, because Shamrock gave away those rounds simply to fatigue Ortiz. And it was really in that last 2 rounds that he was going to go ahead and start to execute and really go after Tito. But up to then, it was, I mean, sure, if he could get it, he'd take it, but what he wanted to do was wear Tito out, and it worked.
Stay down, disrupt the fence.
Well, Tito did not have to cut as much weight to get ready for this fight tonight as he did against Frank Shamrock. He has also paid a different level of attention to his cardio since that loss to our former middleweight champion.
And we heard John Peretti talking about, you know, this may be the new style of fighter, but there still are several problems with dehydrating your body. The first was when he did it against Shamrock, it didn't work for him. Yes, he was bigger, yes, he was stronger, and that may pay dividends early in the fight. but certainly those who are standing at the end of the fight are the ones that are going to be called the winner. And so dehydrating your body like that will have that kind of an effect. It really takes a lot of discipline to keep your weight at an optimum level where when you do cut, it really isn't going to hurt your body at all. But if you're bouncing and putting 20 pounds on, 20 pounds off, that's a formula for disaster.
Look at Tito Ortiz keeping busy right now in the early part of this matchup for the middleweight championship. Wanderlei Silva and Tito Ortiz, the one we've been waiting for all night long.
Well, one thing that Tito's got to have in the back of his mind is there's a guy named Mike Van Arsdale who's been in the octagon as well. And Wanderlei Silva knocked him out. Decisively knocked him out. And that's got to be in Tito's head because Van Arsdale's may be considered a better wrestler, is a better wrestler on record than Tito Ortiz. So Tito probably didn't want to go stand up initially, maybe want to get him down a little bit, fatigue him, see if he can get some of his arsenal on the ground working. But there's no doubt in my mind that in the top of his head, he's thinking a little bit about the fact that he's got that kind of stand-up power.
And Van Arsdale, one of the guys, ironically, that Tito was able to submit in that great performance he put on in Abu Dhabi. 135 remains in round number 1.
That also says something about Tito, where a lot of wrestlers have not learned or put themselves vulnerable to people who are better than them in submissions. Tito Ortiz has. And that's how you learn quickly. And it showed in Abu Dhabi where he was able to submit some people and people's eyes bulged open going, wow, he's starting to pick this stuff up awful quick.
I think the interesting thing is last time we were together, Jeff, down in Louisiana in Lake Charles, you could see that a relationship had been started between Tito Ortiz and Frank Shamrock to the point where now they have traded trade secrets almost. And, you know, hey, if you can't beat them, learn from them. And that is what Tito Ortiz has done is his experiences with Frank Shamrock, arguably the greatest UFC champion ever.
Certainly answered all challenges, went through a marriage, went through people criticizing him because he stayed away for so long. But Frank truly, I feel, is, you know, the evolution of Frank Shamrock from being in the entourage behind Ken to being the greatest fighter to grace the octagon. I'll tell you what, I got a lot of respect for that man.
And a lot of respect for these two guys. Yeah, you got that right.
And his wife, boy, she was a part of that formula.
And a part of Tito's formula
Frank,
here.
Love you both.
And these guys now trying to follow in Frank's footsteps. Two great fighters fighting for one of the 3 greatest belts in the world. The middleweight title. First round inning in a flurry of positive punches for Tito Ortiz as the bell sounds.
Well, Tito Ortiz, I shouldn't say dominated, but controlled the action in that round. Got the takedown, did some ground and pound. I'd have to give that round to Tito Ortiz, but Wanderlei Silva very much in it. Didn't suffer any real damage, but he was limited. He couldn't get on track with any kind of offense.
Wanderlei has spent some time fighting in Japan in the recent months, and he really has enjoyed his experience. But he will admit to all that want to listen that fighting for the UFC title is the dream of every fighter. This man has had that opportunity once. He did not come away victorious. He does not want the same result tonight. We get set for round number 2 after this 60-second rest period for each fighter. Wanderlei Silva is set. Tito Ortiz is set. Here is round number 2.
Well, Tito got a quick takedown in round number 1, and oh, Wanderlei throwing some heavy leather right away.
Tito lands a big right, and down goes Silva. That one stunned him.
It definitely stunned him, but Silva's still fighting. He's hanging out of that double leg. See if Tito can spin behind him, take his back. Silva's going to concede the guard. But it was Tito Ortiz. Right. Yes, he did. Put him down. But it does appear, though, Wanderlei is all right.
Oh, another right, Jeff. And a combination now by Ortiz.
This is where Silva's guard should come into play to help protect him here. Those punches aren't landing cleanly. They're glancing off of arms.
What's the key to the guard here?
You're asking the wrong guy because I'm not great at it. But if you ask me what the key to the guard would be, it's keeping your arms in front of your chest or hugging, depending on where your man is. If he's trying to get close to you, hug him so that he can't create the distance to punch. And if he goes to sit up, you want to unbalance him by moving your hips so that he spends more time keeping his base and not having the foundation to throw heavy leather from.
We saw a moment ago that very thing, that Silva kept the hips moving, and because of that, Tito Ortiz's punches were glancing off the arms as you described it.
And he's gotten himself to a point now where he can possibly recover, and he seems to be doing that.
The metamorphosis of this young man, a former sparring partner of Tank Abbott. Tito Ortiz is simply now his own man. That relationship is well documented and very, very old and stale. And Tito is really taken his training and his goals and aspirations to another level.
Some may have thought Tito a little brash when he was younger, but the one thing after that Shamrock fight, every time I talk to him now, he seems to be much more confident in his abilities, much more educated as to what he needs to do, and much more disciplined in that he's gone out and sought the help he's needed to really round out his style and make him more effective.
One of the defining moments after that loss to Frank Shamrock was when he wore the Frank Shamrock t-shirt in honor of what Frank had just done in defeating Tito for the middleweight championship. Who will wear the championship t-shirt tonight, though? Tito Ortiz or Vanderlei Silva? Silva, a very dangerous fighter. Muay Thai record, 15 fights, 15 victories. Two-time Brazilian champion, 12-2 overall in mixed martial arts competition. One of those losses back to Vitor Belfort in Ultimate Brazil. Tito's keeping busy, so Silva, though.
Well, Tito just covered the arm of Silva, which means now Silva really can't throw too many punches, particularly with the right hand. And Tito trying to go over the top.
Tried to come down with a big jackhammer.
And perhaps that's the biggest thing that I can say of why he's improved, is now he's willing to take risks to pass the guard, and it's not everything that if he ever gets turned and has to put the guard on someone. And that's what we've seen from our best fighters, particularly what Frank Shamrock said. I have put myself in the worst case scenario and fought from it. I am not scared of any position. And that's a man of confidence. He's unafraid as to where the fight takes him, which means I'll take risk after risk after risk, not settle for a stalemated position. And I think that's what we just saw with Tito there. He wasn't afraid to take some risk.
I had long conversations on bus rides and, trips from airports in Brazil with Maurice Smith about that very same thing, Jeff, about how you have to put yourself in a vulnerable position at times to gain the position that you ultimately want to be victorious in a title fight.
Now this is second round action, under a minute. It's pretty much been Tito Ortiz ground and pound tactics that have dominated these first two rounds.
Very much like the last middleweight title bout that he was involved in.
He did have that right hand to start this round off that seemed to stun Vanderlei Silva.
Finished round number one strong. Let's see if he finishes round number two strong. 30 seconds remains in round number two, a scheduled 5-5-minute rounds. Here for the middleweight championship tonight in Yoyogi Gymnasium, Tokyo, Japan. Middleweight bout tonight, June 9th, we get a lightweight and a heavyweight championship.
The UFC rolls on, and that should be a great card. And
great time recognition here. Great strategy. Tito Ortiz, knowing the clock is down to 15 to 20 seconds at the end of the one, he finishes with a flurry at the end of the two. Round number two. Finishes again, leaving an indelible impression in the judges' minds.
That's a smart tactic, stealing a round at the end, and I don't think he had to steal the round, but certainly he learned from Frank Shamrock that if you put a hurting at the guy at the end of the round, you make him think a little bit harder about the fact that you did win that round.
Let's go back to the beginning of the round here. This is the right that catches Vanderlei Silva. Boom, right there.
On the chin, and he definitely lost it there. You saw him go right down to his chest, but he quickly recovered, grabbed the legs, and survived, much to his credit.
Both fighters working in their corners now.
I would tend to think that after 2 rounds, Mike, that Tito has got them both. None by dominating round, but just 10-9 rounds, both for Tito. Tito, of course, managed by Sal Garcia. Vanderlei Silva by Rudimar Frederico. And he's trained by a whole bunch of different people. Colin Oyama, Rob McCullough, Chuck Liddell, Scott Adams, but it's also John Lewis that seems to have taken a very special interest in him. Lewis, good tactician, someone to learn from.
Sizing each other up the first 30 seconds here in round number 3. Who will be the middleweight champion of the Ultimate Fighting Championship?
It's Tito doing most of the moving here. Again, he looks like he's trying to bait Vanderlei Silva to move towards him, making it easier for a double leg tackle.
Great look from our overhead camera. Now back to the positioning of Vanderlei Silva.
He's also circling, taking himself away from the power hand of Vanderlei Silva. And that's something that we haven't even seen yet. He's famous for his knees.
I was just thinking the same thing.
But he has not had the opportunity at all. Right now,
there it is, right as you say it. And Tito knows he ate one there, but Tito's right back up with enthusiasm. That's the danger on a shoot on Vanderlei Silva.
Well, one from a distance, from an outside shot, he sees it coming, and if he can just hold his balance long enough to load one of the knees up, as soon as you go to bring your head up to finish the tackle, he's bringing it up on you. That's why I like the tactic of Tito trying to get Vanderlei to move towards him. Oh, another right hand glance off the head.
Just misses with the uppercut. Now a kick, he got the leg caught, but connected with the kick. And let's see what happens here. Oh, good action here.
Oh, it did look like Silva hit Ortiz there.
Oh, he's got him in trouble.
And Ortiz is in trouble. Vanderlei Silva making a fight of it.
Silva now looking to try to work on Tito Ortiz.
Ortiz now regaining his composure, working for a double leg takedown, now has it.
He was in trouble for a moment,
He
though.
certainly was, but he'll have an opportunity to recover now. And now we'll get to see a Tito Ortiz that has been wounded.
If you are keeping track of stuns at home, stun number 1 delivered by Silva in the 3rd round. Stun number 1 delivered by Ortiz in the 2nd. Now we're even in that category because Tito was shaken a moment ago.
Yeah, both were wounded by those punches, stunned. Tito actually moved away, started running away. It almost looked like, I couldn't tell because he was disoriented from the blow or whether he's just using the tactic, hey, separation is my best bet of survival right now. But it doesn't matter. Ortiz will survive. And he's starting to fight back now with grounded pound. But there's no attempt to pass this guard again. And I doubt we'll see that until he really feels he's got his bearings back.
Approaching 90 seconds remaining in round number 3.
Pace definitely slowed here.
Yeah.
Must have had an impact on Tito. And the hype about Vanderlei Silva lives up. Certainly came in here with the reputation of being a good stand-up fighter, and he nailed Tito Ortiz.
You hear the Portuguese commands coming from the corner of Vanderlei Silva. The English commands coming from the corner of Tito Ortiz.
And it's the middleweight belt up for grabs here.
Vacated by the presently retired Frank Shamrock, and 2 young men fighting right here, Jeff, who have earned their opportunity to fight for this belt tonight, undoubtedly.
Well, many people wanted another Tito versus Frank rematch, but Frank chose a direction right now in his life, and I'm certainly hoping that he can be enticed back into the fighting game, and I think that can happen. But he'll make it at his own choosing, and when the timing's right, and probably when the money is right.
20 seconds, 20 seconds.
Under 20 seconds now. Let's see if he finishes the 3rd the way he has the 1st and 2nd, but this is a Tito Ortiz a little bit more fatigued than he was at the end of round 1 and round 2, and stunned here in round number 3.
Very few people are undefeated in the UFC.
Both of these young men have suffered one defeat. A defeat tonight would mean they miss their chance to be crowned champion. 3 of 5 rounds in the books.
Now, Tito doesn't look worse for wear.
Nope.
Did get stunned, but he seems to be all there. Vanderlei Silva may feel a little bit of frustration only because of the fact that he had an opportunity but couldn't finish him. And Vanderlei just missed with that big right hand, but nice job. 2 of them exchanging. Vanderlei trying for a takedown.
There it is. It was a right there, Jeff. It was
right
a right.
hand right to Tito's cheek. Put him down. Tito took a few steps in the opposite direction and then was able to tie up his upper body, weather the storm, and survive the round.
So a right connects in the second round from Ortiz. A right connects in the third round from Silva.
Let's see if Tito goes back to trying to bring Vanderlei to chase him so those takedowns become easier.
So round 3 belongs to Vanderlei Silva.
Look at Vanderlei. He's basically standing in the exact same spot, dead center of the octagon, and all he's doing is basically rotating to face Tito. It's Tito who's doing most of the moving around Vanderlei Silva.
Ken Shamrock told me the one technique he always used was to take the center of the ring.
Well, I'm sure Tito doesn't want to go stand up with him. I mean, he'll trade punches if he feels it's the right situation. But to just sit here and box with Vanderlei Silva, I'm not so sure that's the smart tactic if I have an arsenal full of takedowns and other weapons.
John McCarthy telling the fighters, let's get it on here. Let's start going here in the 4th round. Wait for your shoot, wait for your opportunity, don't commit. The corner of Tito Ortiz. You can hear the instructions in the background.
It almost seems like Vanderlei's waiting for him. The reason why he's not moving very much is he doesn't want to be caught in half step so that he can't bring a knee up or can't sustain a good hip sprawl.
And both guys, Jeff, have now been hurt in this match, so there is an element of hesitation that maybe was not featured earlier in the middleweight championship contest.
I agree with that, 100%. You get whacked, you think about it a little bit more.
Well, I want to go back there to where I was hit before. Center of the ring, held by Silva, circling is Tito Ortiz. Ortiz in the black full shorts. And a combination just missed Tito Ortiz there. And it gives him the opportunity to close, though.
And he'll finish the takedown again.
But he had to take the chance of getting punched to be able to shoot.
It is the game they play. How do I get close? I can get close by trying to step at him and him see me coming, or I can wait for him to be in a position that's off balance and take advantage of it and shoot then. 1, he doesn't see you coming in that way. 2, because he missed with the punch, he's off balance and not in a position to deliver that kind of an immediate counter. And it's smart tactics by Tito to try to draw Vanderlei in than to just continue moving forward and become a predictable fighter. When I know you're about to take a shot, I can load up and have it waiting for you. That is Vanderlei's knee.
And it's almost as if you could see real quickly a look in Tito's eyes before he shot there that, woof, got away from that one. Not by much, but I got away from that combination.
He's had a couple of those where Vanderlei threw some big-time leather, and it just missed in the front of Tito's face.
Under 2 minutes remains in the 4th round.
Action slowing a bit here, but middleweight belt on the line. Tito Ortiz, 4th round. Could have given Silva that round where he stunned Ortiz by a little bit, or you might have called that a draw. That's up to the other, but I think Tito definitely won the first 2 rounds, so I have Tito ahead at this point. And by the way this round is going, Tito has the takedown and has gotten a couple of punches in, but this pace has definitely slowed. their styles have gotten very conservative.
John Peretti, in forecasting what we might see, said that this could become a fight in which we see this very thing. Silva unable to get back up off the mat when Tito's able to take him down.
And also the fact that Tito cannot pass Silva's guard and handle him at will on the ground.
Right.
Punching from within the guard is much more difficult than punching from outside the guard. Or from the side mount.
Silva has had maybe 1 or 2 knees. I don't recall seeing an elbow used by Vanderlei Silva tonight, and those are the 2 strength points of his striking skills.
And the only reason he got those knees off is because Tito took that long outside shot, no setup, no off balancing to make it easier, and Vanderlei Silva was waiting with those knees. He had them cocked and loaded.
15 seconds remains in round number 4.
And this one's going to go down in the books as a round probably for Tito Ortiz. At least it is on my scorecard, my unofficial scorecard.
Trying to finish this round with a flurry, and the bell sounds. 20 minutes they have competed here at Yoyogi Gymnasium in Tokyo, Japan.
He'll towel off, get a little bit of water, get a little bit of instruction.
Good night of fights. Laverne Clark victorious. Ron Waterman victorious. Manoa beat Slick. Bustamante beat Anjo. Kakuta beat Eugene Jackson. And the winner of this, our 6th and final fight of the night, will be the new UFC middleweight champion.
Perhaps a tactic for Vanderlei Silva here would be to do the kind of outbursts we saw earlier in the fight against like a guy like Manoa, where the whole first round he didn't throw a strike. Then in the second round, he just did those bursts. All I've seen from Vanderlei here is basically the circling and the circling and the circling and no real forward motion to go after Tito. It's the 5th round. He trails on my card. And I'm pretty confident that's the way the judges have it, just because the only thing that happened was Tito, getting the takedown and doing ground and pound. So I would think that some urgency needed to be displayed by Vanderlei Silva.
Well, Vanderlei was quick to come out of the corner, take the center of the ring again. And again, I think this is a situation, Jeff, where he says, Tito, eventually you have to come to me, and you may eat something on the trip inside.
Well, Tito may not take a shot at this point. I think he may if he feels it's set up, but Tito's doing the right thing. He keeps shifting direction. Don't be a stationary target for those good hands of Vanderlei. And if Vanderlei wants to throw big leather, it's going to have to be a risk. And he took that risk and paid for it.
Let him get tired. Don't do elbows yet. Don't do elbows yet. Wait. You can throw your right knee if you can.
As it was in the 4th, it is in the 5th. The combination attempted by Vanderlei Silva. Punches do not land. And now he has landed on his back once again.
Side mount by Tito. Let's see if he'll try to bring the knee up to block that leg to keep it from coming in and getting a half guard. And from there, he may be able to open up with a knee, right knee, or possible punches. He could also put that left knee in Vanderlei's stomach and punch from there.
Jeff, 3 minutes and 35 seconds separates one of these young fighters from the middleweight championship of the world.
The other thing Tito knows is if he just holds him right here, he doesn't have to take lots of risk. A lot of people want to see the real flashy stuff, but flashy stuff is high-risk maneuver. And high-risk maneuvers can lead to situations that cost you fights. And there's no reason for Tito Ortiz here to have to take any additional risk versus Vanderlei Silva, who has to feel that he's trailing. He's the guy that's got to create something. It isn't up to Tito Ortiz to open things up. It's up to Vanderlei Silva at this point.
2:51 on the clock. What can Silva do here? Is there anything he can do to combat this?
Work back to guard here, get Tito somewhere in between his legs and then start to operate from there. And now he'll have the opportunity.
There's step one.
Working.
Clock is starting to work against Wanderlei Silva.
The other is to start going for some wild submission attempts and try to get Tito to panic and back out. Perhaps that would allow him to get back to his feet. Very intelligent move by Wanderlei there. He turned himself 180 to face the center of the octagon, and Tito had every intent of driving him head first into the fence. Tito's redirected him again, but Wanderlei has very good awareness of where he is in the octagon, and he turned himself before Tito could really trap him.
And Tito, it's not as if he lacks skill in the ground game, because wrestling is his foundation.
This is also the time where, you know, Tito going 5 rounds. I mean, he wasn't able to do it against Frank Shamrock. But here, he's not only doing it, he's winning the fight, but he has slowed, and one might have to wonder, conditioning-wise, is he... One, he's made it to the 5th round, so he's obviously improved it, but is he suffering a little bit? Is conditioning or is wind causing him to slow his pace a little bit? But it's smart play either way.
I was going to say, is it wind or is it strategy? Because you alluded to the fact that Tito understands the big picture of what's going on here. He is getting punched on the side of the head. There are now 70 seconds left in our middleweight championship bout.
Well, he can trade punches with Wanderlei here and not lose the round.
You got 1 minute left, Tito.
Wanderlei trying to make a move there.
Barely got it.
Tito spins away and gets right back in, inside the guard, but still in a position where he is on top of his opponent.
Just don't get cut. Just don't get cut, baby.
Our naval guests chanting USA in the background.
Well, they were into it. Not a lot of support from the Japanese people in that chant.
Yeah, and remember also, Jeff, that although Tito cut weight, there is a weight advantage here at the time of the fight over Wanderlei Silva. He's the bigger, stronger guy, as it was in his fight against Shamrock. But Shamrock somehow was able to conquer him in the end, and every time Silva tries here in the 5th, Tito turns him right back over.
I don't know why Wanderlei didn't try to do this earlier in the fight and really create, you know, these kinds of little scrambles, if you will, and force, you know, use the same tactic that Frank Shamrock did.
Final seconds of the middleweight championship are complete, and the judges will render a decision on who will walk away with the belt.
Great respect between the two fighters, but it'll come down to the judges. I have it possibly 4-1 giving Silva the round in which he stunned Ortiz, even though Ortiz wound up coming back and taking him down. That was a big strike. That might have won over the judges. But Tito racked up too many rounds, and I expect Tito here to win the judges' decision.
Now, Tito's feeling pretty good about things as he parades his way around the octagon walls.
It's so eerily different with the Japanese crowd because they're so quiet. And that helps the building, I think, of waiting for the judge's decision. Yeah, Ortiz looks happy. He feels pretty confident about it.
McCarthy brings both fighters to the center of the ring. We will find out in a moment who our new middleweight champion is. Tito thinks, he's just not yet certain.
判定の結果を申し上げます。ジャッジ西49対47、ジャッジ鮫島49対46、ジャッジ梅木49対46、以上の結果3対0でティト・オーティス選手の判定勝ちです。
And Tito trying to understand deep in his heart. All right, I know they're speaking Japanese. Is it me? Yes, it is, Huntington Beach bad boy. Tito Ortiz is the new UFC middleweight champion.